Welcome to Blind Level Tech. I'm Jonathan Price.
I'm Evan Starnes.
And together, we're bringing you news, tech, and information about blind technologies.
Being blind doesn't mean you have to stop living.
We're going to show you just how possible it is to live the life you want.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to Blind Level Tech, of course, the show that covers all things tech and all things blind, but not to be confused with BLT, the bacon, lettuce, tomato sandwiches. We have nothing to do with that at all. But, we do have plenty to do with tech. And, of course, joining me today is our host and producer, Jonathan Price, and I am your co-host, Evan Starnes. And, how's it going, Jonathan?
Dude, I'm pretty good. I'm so glad to finally see sunshine. All the rain, I felt like I was back in the Pacific up in Oregon, and I was like, this is horrible. I don't like this at all.
I'm on the flip side, though, because I loved it because I haven't seen rain like this in Colorado since...
True.
I can't remember the last time it's rained like this at all.
The last time I remember it raining like this was when we had that massive flood
2013
in Boulder. Was it 13? Was it that long ago?
Yeah, it was over 10 years ago.
Cow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, that's the worst. I've seen it. And I was joking with my daughter. This was like the most soaking rain that we've had. And it hasn't, because it wasn't like this just big onslaught and huge rainstorm. It was just this nice, calm, just saturation. And that's why everything is so green and vibrant, and my yard is getting out of control. So I'm going to go mow the lawn later today.
Right.
And, so it's finally good to see the sun out and helping things along. Yeah,
it's warmed up a bit today as we were recording this. Everybody's lawns and everybody's greenery and everything is just having a celebration right now because of just all this moisture. Right. And we sure needed it. It's been an interesting winter and spring. Mm-hmm. Honestly, we had this just long, cold, snowy, but back and forth Colorado style winter.
Yep.
And then eventually it ended up, now we're getting all this, we got all this rain and now we're getting all this sun again. So it's special.
I'm definitely ready for summer and some of the fun stuff. My kids are going to be out of school next week, they have one more week of school, and that's it. And then I've got to figure out how to entertain them for a summer. So that'll be quite interesting. But
while recording,
Nuggets game, at least as of recording this, is tonight. So if you're listening to this on Wednesday, I don't know what the score was right now. But I'm sure it was a good game. I hope the Nuggets won.
Me too. I'm a big supporter of the Nuggets. But the summer's going to be special too. AINC does have. I don't think we're still indeterminate. We're going to have a hike coming up eventually that you all should look forward to. It's going to be. Just imagine a whole bunch of blind people with a bunch of hiking poles and backpacks and flags and AINC swag, all hiking on this, all hiking a trail, singing, listening to, talking, and it's a ton of fun. We've hosted 2 hikes and I've been to both, and I have thoroughly enjoyed both of them. And it was cool because the last time you went with me and, we got to stay in this really cool cabin and we actually ran our AINC story booth there, which was pretty cool, and got to interview people, and they got to tell stories and how they got, why they're at the hike and, their journey into blindness if they're blind and all sorts of other cool stuff too.
Yep. And I'm not sure where we're going. I think we're still narrowing it down to 1 or 2 places, but I think it's August. I don't remember the date, but we'll get it back to you. Do you know the date?
I don't. I know it's a weekend, a middle weekend in August.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. So speaking of walking and guiding, Evan, you had a pretty incredible weekend. And so we're going to kind of shift from technology specifically and more to assistive I guess it's not really technology, but it is assistive. And so, not a lot, at least on our channel, gets talked about guide dog and guide dog usage and how to apply for them and how to get them and, all that kind of stuff. And it's so cool for us to be able to talk about guide dogs because Evan had a really beautiful experience this weekend. And before I get that over to you guys, we do have several contacts for guide dog schools, guide dog usage. We have Penn is an absolute amazing resource for guide dog usage. And we have several shows on Blindsight and some of our other shows, Aftersight, where she talks with people from guide dog schools, and it's just really, really amazing. And so with that, Evan, I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell us, first of all, what was the event you attended this weekend?
Okay, so I attended a seminar for guide dogs. It was I think the National Western Guide Dog Show. Oh, cool. And it's really cool because there's a whole bunch of schools and various vendors and people telling their stories about, having a guide dog and what it meant to them and why you might want a guide dog and why you shouldn't get a guide dog and like all the goods and the bads, and then even some cool little tidbits and insights about owner training your guide dog, because about 99% of guide dogs usually come from a school, but then there's that really cool dedicated percentage of people that can and are willing to train their own guide dog. Right. And it is a ton of work. From day one, when you get the puppy, you have to do all sorts of training for making sure it doesn't, take a, poop somewhere in public. Yeah. And, also making sure, because you're putting your life in the paws of this dog, Yeah. Try to go there with that. But yeah, you're basically, this is your lifeline, so. Yeah. Well, you cross the street, the dog needs to make sure you're not going to cross into traffic.
Right. Quite literally a life or death companion, which is kind of cool.
That's exactly what it is. And it was cool, too, because they had there's a couple of vendors. There is a lady that we spoke with, and her name is Julie Johnson, and she has her own little business that she runs. Okay. And it's called, I forget what it is. It's like On the Go. Oh man, I know it's On the Go something. But she sells like harnesses and all sorts of other stuff for, for guide dogs. Like even these pouches that you can put treats in if you're doing training. I think they call them training pouches, actually. And yeah, just all sorts of cool merch. And it's funny because I actually won a drawing there and I need to go claim it. But
very cool.
I actually won some free stuff from her.
Nice. Do you know what you won?
Just I think it was a $25, basically $25 off of, or $25 gift card for stuff off of her site. Nice. But the sad thing is, as of now, I say as of now, I don't have a guide dog. Right. And that is definitely something I do plan on getting eventually is a guide dog, but I'm waiting until I move and
So what were some of the
I'm in a stable place.
What were some of the interesting takeaways that you encountered when it came to the reasons for not owning a guide dog?
Yeah, so a lot of the people, the most interesting and kind of understandable one is convenience. It's hard to say this nicely, but guide dogs are not convenient. Right. Like a cane would be, compared to a cane. Right. Because there's they're completely different beasts. And
you can't fold it up and put it in the
guide dogs. Yeah, exactly. And they were even talking about that at a seminar, is you cannot and should not, hopefully you're never doing this, but you cannot fold up your guide dog and put your guide dog in the closet.
You can put them in the closet.
Good idea.
But they may not like you for very long.
Might be animal abuse.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, no. You might end up having to surrender your dog to. Yeah, that'd be sad. But, yeah, you have to make sure that they're groomed and take them out every few hours to make sure to go to the bathroom, feed them, take them to the vet. And, you can't, you got to work them a lot to keep their skills up too. So if you don't ever get out, like if you are a hermit, don't get a guide dog. It's not a good idea because you're just you'll have a dog, but they won't eventually, like with anybody, like with humans, the skills for traveling and stuff that they've been taught get rusty. And that's a safety risk too for you too, because you could be walking out and they could have forgotten.
For sure.
Like usually, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but it's just kind of a general good rule of thumb to follow. But yeah, so you always got to keep your dog up and working, and yeah, just make sure. Now on the flip side of it, a guide dog is a really, really good companion because let's say you're exploring like a new area and you don't feel comfortable in that new area and it's just you and you're trying to let's say you're a college student scouting out like classes or you're at a new job and you want to look at the office before you start or any of that. It's a lot more friendly and it's a little easier doing it with a guide dog because you have that companion. You don't feel all alone and by yourself.
Yeah.
And, it's just nicer that way. And even when you get lost, you have somebody to be lost with. And that's the thing too. And I want to just echo what was being said at this conference is the dog isn't, they're not leading you. You tell the dog where to go and they guide you around and make sure that you don't walk off staircases or bump into things and another thing too that you got to keep in mind is some people, when they get a guide dog, they're like, oh great, I can put my cane away and forget about it. No. Never. If you haven't heard this before, don't do that because
don't.
You actually you need to have good cane travel skills to have a guide dog.
For sure. Well, I'm glad that you were able to experience that event. You had where are you at in your journey? I know you wanted to wait until after you move, but where are you at and what is the process? Did you learn anything about the process of getting a guide dog?
So it depends on what school you want to go to. So I was thinking of going to the Seeing Eye, and Seeing Eye is the oldest guide dog school, and I think I don't know if it was the world's or the country's first guide dog school ever. And it kind of depends. So usually you fill out an application and you get put on a wait list, and what they'll do is they'll actually send somebody to do, in most cases you'll have to do an in-home interview, and that is just in general. I think they'll take you out. At least when I did it, I actually originally was going to do Guide Dog Foundation, and they're still good.
Yeah.
And what they did is they just they took me out, made sure that I had good travel skills with the cane, and made sure that I'd be, that I had the right place for an animal, and that you're not going to be, abusing this animal, or that this dog isn't going to be living in some really poorly conditioned area.
Yep.
And that's really important because these dogs are free. You're not paying for the dog itself. You will have to pay obviously for food and vet costs and stuff, but getting the dog to you and doing all the training and stuff is completely free.
Wow.
But yeah, usually you, in most cases nowadays, you can go and apply on their website, and then they'll do that interview, and what they'll try to do is what schools do, the goal is to find the dog that works best with the owner. So the dog, so you hypothetical owner or whatever, and dog can have, a good relationship in that bond, because the thing about having a guide dog is that you do need to have a sort of a bond. you have to have a complete bond. Like
Right.
they need to know you're the boss,
absolutely.
and you're, they're the one that leads you around, nobody else.
Yeah, it's very much a symbiotic relationship. It's not quite like going out and test driving a bunch of cars, but I mean, the initial process, I mean, you could kind of equate it to that, but it truly is about that, symbiotic relationship. It's so important to, when I was a kid and I was helping my grandpa with horses, I've always had a good relationship with horses, regardless of the animal. And they could be the most squirrely, ornery horses, and I could just walk up to them and they were super calm. I don't know why or how, but they understand and they know who they can trust, why they can trust them, and not only that, but how to work with them. And so there were guide dog schools there. There were what other vendors were there? What kind of stuff were they doing?
Oh, they had a couple. Well, Julie Johnson was there at the exhibit.
Mm-hmm.
They had like a little exhibit hall where you could go buy stuff. So obviously Julie Johnson was there selling like harnesses and treat bags and all sorts of, and what she manufactures. I don't know if she doesn't manufacture, but what she sells, They also had. I didn't get to check out much of the exhibit hall because I was going to events. Mm-hmm. But I believe they also had some like grooming tools, and that was something cool. Is I did get to go to the grooming breakout session, and they got to talk about like combs and things that you use, especially if you have. Because like personally, for me, I'm hoping to get a golden retriever because I love them. They're sweet dogs. Yeah, and they have very long and very soft hair that does need to be taken care of, and. Mm-hmm. So they had tools for that. They also, I don't know if they had you could buy harnesses. There were some, they actually were doing a thing called a Juno walk, and a lot of schools do this, and it's basically what the Juno is it's a simulated guide dog. So it's usually somebody wearing like a leash or whatever, and you hold the harness, and they are able to, kind of show you how you walk with the harness, how you give the dog commands,
right.
Stop, right, left, all of that. And so they actually were doing Juno walks there. And they also did bring in a guide dog that, didn't have a person. It was kind of their demo dog, essentially. Okay. And I think his name was Mozart, but they also brought a guy from Guide Dog Foundation that I've actually worked with. He brought Joe, I believe, and he was a guide dog that was meant to be originally given to somebody, but the person he was given to, they didn't really need, they didn't have the best relationship, and he didn't really need a dog as much. So he ended up going back to GDF, and since, he still had the training, he's basically taken out and shown to people that are interested in a guide dog, and they get to have real life experience. So that was an opportunity. It's like people were able to actually go and walk around with a guide dog and see what it was like, and if they wanted one or not.
So what what breeds of guide dogs are there? And can any dog be a guide dog, or are we talking like hyper-specific breeds?
We're talking pretty specific. The most common breed of guide dogs are labs. Particularly, I've seen a lot of yellow labs. And I like labs. Like if somebody that I know has a lab, I love labs. But that's not the type of dog that I personally work with. But they had labs, and the other common breed are usually German shepherds. However, they have had golden retrievers, and there's a few schools. Seeing Eye offers them, and there were a few schools that used to offer poodles, but I haven't seen poodles in a while. But Penn Street, After Sight, she has a poodle.
Right. Yep.
And they don't usually. That's the majority. I haven't seen too many other breeds from schools specifically. Now that's not to say that, like, okay, so my girlfriend actually trained her Akita as a guide dog, and
oh wow,
somebody actually was like, "Oh, there's only like a 20% chance that he'll make it as a guide dog," and here you go, he made it as a guide dog. He's now retired.
Very cool. How long does she have him?
She's had him for like 9 years.
Wow.
Yeah. He'll be 10 pretty soon, but she got him back in 2013.
Very cool. So
as a puppy.
You went to a lot of different events. Tell me about one of the coolest experiences in the events that happened.
Honestly, like the coolest experiences really were being able to just the whole thing of being around a whole bunch of blind people with a whole bunch of guide dogs. I mean, there are dogs everywhere of all sorts of different breeds. There's only one golden retriever. And
no way.
Yeah, seriously. And it was super interesting being able to because there's like everybody had a cane or a dog.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, I want to pause really quick on that one thought because, and we're going to get kind of philosophical if you're okay with this.
Go ahead.
Tell me about the importance for you in surrounding yourself with people who are going through the same thing.
The importance for me,
what was that like?
It was therapeutic. Honestly, it was. There was it was a very not eye-opening, but because I've done it before. But it was a very I don't even want to say surreal. It was just a very pleasant experience as being able to have. Right. People that have been on similar walks of life to you and that know other people that you might already be familiar with. It's just very nice to be around that kind of demographic of people. And it's important to me because, it's like that as somebody who is blind, it is I do like to connect with others who are blind that have had similar experiences, mainly because I'm still at that stage where I'm trying to really not figure life out because everybody's going to be figuring life out all the time, but really figuring out the big stuff, maturing and, you're not a kid anymore. You're not in high school, trying to figure all that out.
Right.
And being around people that have had various experiences and are on different walks, but we're still blind, and that's the thing we have in common.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And it's important to make sure that you are still surrounding yourself with people who are, I don't want to say like-minded, but people who are going through similar experiences as you are. And not necessarily in belief, but in life experience. I think is really, really important. And it helps to foster that sense of community and the I don't know, just the camaraderie of knowing that you guys are kind of in the same boat together and you're doing life together, even though you may not know a lot of them. But I think you mentioned a story from Mike Hinkson.
I think that's his name.
Michael Hinkson.
Hinkson or Henson.
Okay.
I think it's Henson.
And tell us about that story because the importance of a guide dog has never been more profound than the story that you shared with us earlier.
Yes. So there's a guy, a speaker at the event named Mike Henson, and he actually wrote a book called Thunderdog. And he also wrote another one, I forget what it was called, but so he actually worked at the World Trade Center right during 9/11, and he told us the story about how him and his guide dog were, up in his office, and how a friend and colleague of his basically was like freaking out because he was like, I think he was like, there's a part of the center that's on fire or whatever. There's fire. We got to get out of here. And he didn't even know and didn't even hear anything. There was no fire alarm or whatever. And then him and his guide dog, I forget what her name is, not Rosetta, but.
Yeah, it was Rosetta.
Okay, yeah.
I think that's what
Rose.
you said.
I think it's what it was. But yeah, him and his guide dog basically, she was asleep and he ended up waking her up, and how they're going downstairs and people, everybody was kind of like, not freaking out, but they're like, trying to make sure that everybody was taken, everything was, and it was super interesting because, he didn't have a cane, but this dog was leading him down like all these flights of stairs. Meanwhile, the part of the building was on fire because a plane had just crashed and there was a bunch of burning jet fuel, and it was, a huge experience. And eventually he describes people walking through with burn victims, and, some people were like, we're all going to die. And eventually there was some panic, but he was calm. And he actually really made a big point, is that if you're a guide dog owner, the way you handle stress and the way you display it is very important, because if you're stressed, the dog's going to feel and channel your stress as well. And that's why he was like, even in these situations where you could be in a burning building, he stayed calm, and his calmness helped everybody else be calm as well, besides his dog.
Yep.
And he, and eventually they managed to make it out of the building, and he ran, like he kind of went off somewhere, and his dog basically made sure to, they eventually got to a staircase, and guide dogs are trained when you get to anything like a staircase or whatever to immediately stop so you can figure out where you are and how you want to proceed. And so, he had eventually gotten to, I forget like what the staircase was for, but he, he was kind of out, by like the World Trade Center, and he described basically what it was like hearing the Twin Towers fall, and hearing the World Trade Center collapse. And he even described in detail what it sounded like, but how, he was able to just keep everybody calm and get down safely, with a guide dog, and how they do really keep you from, like, nothing wrong with a cane, but, like when you're in an area with a cane and you're looking at stuff that you're not familiar with, you're, clanging into things, and you're concentrating a lot on what's on the ground. But with a guide dog, the dog's doing that for you, so you're able to kind of focus on what you're actually, where you're trying to go, and your sense of direction and stuff like that. So.
Man, that's such a cool story. And it just goes to show that, having those guide dogs in your corner can literally save your life. And I know that there's been several times that Penn has used Beethoven, her guide dog, in pretty precarious situations. And I know that, I've heard stories of people trying to cross the street, and they'll say, go on, or let's go, or forward, and the dog will not move because the dog can see a car coming and say, no, it's not safe quite yet. And it's just, it really speaks to that relationship between you and the dog. So I really hope that you're able to get a dog, Evan, and I hope that we're able to, share in that journey with you, and hopefully it happens sooner rather than later. Any final parting words for our listeners as we head out?
Well, I will say I did want to, just before we jump off here, I did want to turn it back to tech a little bit. Yeah. This is Blind Level Tech. And I wanted to talk specifically about rideshare platforms. Mainly what I'm talking is Uber and Lyft. Because with the, I have this lovely discount where I get $25 off per ride, and with the prevalence of rideshare platforms nowadays, a lot of people aren't using things like public transit, which I totally get because they're inconvenient and not safe anymore, as much as they were. You can still use them. It's a pain. Yep. So there was actually a cool little event that we did at the seminar, and it was about these rideshare platforms and about drivers declining or denying guide dog owners because for whatever reason they didn't want the guide dog riding in their car.
And that's been a gigantic problem the last couple of years.
Oh yeah, it has. Big, huge, massive problem. And everybody's trying to do something about it. But like the whole blind community really, especially because everybody's traveling and trying to go places, and a lot of people are relying on Lyft and Uber, and some people are going as far as to leave their guide dog home and not even use their guide dog because they're afraid of getting denied service, which is really sad. So there's basically a whole push to work with these companies, to work with Uber and Lyft and mainly Uber and Lyft, but other rideshare companies to prevent service animal denials, because you can say, I don't want them in my car for religious / allergenic / just other reasons, but it violates the ADA. And as drivers of rideshare services, drivers are not permitted to deny somebody, a ride because of a service animal. It does violate a section of the ADA. I don't know which one it is, but there is an app that you can get, and it's the National Association of Guide Dog Users, and the app is called NAGDU, N-A-G-D-U. Okay. And you can get it, and it has all sorts of legal stuff, like how do you avoid getting denied service, and what do I tell my driver if if I'm getting an Uber or Lyft. And they even have stuff for airport rides, because air travel is another thing that you'll run into issues with a guide dog, because they might try, and they've had some people, some companies have basically tried to kick people off a plane because their dog took up too much space, or because so. And a lot of companies make you fill out this pre-form, and it's not exactly accessible. It's in a PDF form that's not accessible. And they give you this ID number, basically telling you that you can ride with the service dog. And we as the blind community are trying to get rid of that because they're not cool and they're discriminatory.
Yeah, it's a form of discrimination that we've definitely got to. We got to get rid of this. And, seriously. With companies adding hidden fees for, accessibility features and for in the guise of cleaning and whatever have you, it just has to be accessible. Don't punish somebody for something that they didn't have control over. And
don't deny people service because of their, they have a guide dog. That's their eyes.
Literally, that is their eyes.
That's how I think of it.
Literally. And so I appreciate you bringing that to the attention. You were mentioning with that org, if somebody has a complaint or something that happens, how do they report that?
You can actually send they have an email address, and they set it at the event, but I think it was rideshare feedback or something like that at nagdu.org. Okay. And of course there is the NAGDU app where you can get all that information, and but yeah, there's actually there's an email, and I'll have to find that email, but you can send, if a ride share, if a driver from Uber or Lyft denies you now as a blind person, or denies, right now there is no good reporting system, because if the driver cancels, then you can't really see who the driver was and you can't report them. Right. So they're trying to figure out a workaround for that, if you have a service animal, to report that denial through the platform itself. But since that's not a thing, that's why they have this email address, and they're trying to get all of the denials and information about them as many as they can, so that they can spread this information onto those platforms and really hold them accountable.
Good. Yeah, we'll try to look up that email and then keep it in the show notes for you guys. Man, dude, I love all that stuff. It's good. It's a great way to be proactive in not only your own safety and healthcare, but for everybody else's. So keep it up.
Yep.
And we as AINC, as a company, we are in full support of, obviously accessibility options, not only for blind and visual impairments, but for everybody in general. And I know Penn and Evan, you guys have some doozies of stories that should just not be, not be in existence. And unfortunately, life happens, and people are going to do really crappy things to really good people. And it's just going to be out of fear or ignorance or whatever word you want to put in there. So I'm going to encourage anybody listening to this, share this with your friends and family, and make sure that they understand how important it is to fight for your accessibility rights and features, and for transportation and restaurants and public transit, like everything. Fight for those things, and make it be kind. Just be good. Just be kind to everybody. And more can be done. More can be done with kindness than just yelling and berating somebody.
Exactly. And as somebody who is blind or low vision, you are going to face discrimination. It's just the harsh reality of it. And you have to figure out the best way to deal with that discrimination. And it usually does not involve, screaming and yelling at people, not that. But it is, definitely, it is sadly a thing that we as blind and low vision people have to deal with. So
yeah. Well, Evan, it's been fun chatting with you on this beautiful day, and man, I hope you have a great week and you enjoy some time with the lady, and I hope you get your guide dog soon, man. And we have Alex out, who's incredibly sick. And Kim, our director, is out. She's on vacation. So we're a little thin at AINC. So we're running around with our heads, spinning, and it's been very interesting so far. So we're already tired, and we're only halfway through the week. So, but I tell you what, one of the biggest blessings of my week is doing this show with you, Evan. So I'm so glad to get to do this live with you and get to do this show with you and work in this amazing industry with you. So let's keep it up.
Me too. And stay tuned for more exciting episodes. We're going to have some pretty unique ones down the pipe.
That's right.
Of course.
That's right. Well,
and please, check out all of our other originals: Aftersight, Navigating Life with Vision Loss, Blindsight, and of course my podcast, The Volunteer Spotlight, which just came out last week.
Yeah.
A new episode, fresh off my laptop.
Right. Well, with that being said, on behalf of AINC, this is Blind Level Tech. Evan Starnes, Jonathan Price. We're out.